Welcome back to the Broker to Broker Real Estate Podcast. Today, I am doing something a little bit different. I'm not actually jumping into an interview because what I've done recently is I've gone back and looked at all the episodes that we've recorded to date. And I started seeing a trend and a pattern. And I wanted to specifically do an episode talking about recruiting. And so today, we're going to be jumping in and doing a recruiting recap on what's going on in our industry today. So here we go. Welcome to the Broker to Broker Real Estate Podcast, where we have real, raw conversations with industry leaders, finding out how to connect, support, lead, and ultimately make an impact and drive results in the lives of your agents. I'm your host, Nathan Daniel, and welcome to the show. All right. So like I said, today we're going to be doing a recruiting recap on some of the lessons that I've learned over the past several months about recruiting. And so if you want any more tools, any more tricks, tips, any of that stuff, we have a bunch of it on the website. So you can go to brokertobrokerpodcast.com and get a bunch of information, sign up for the newsletter and all that kind of stuff. So go check that out. But we're going to dive in and we're going to be talking about really three topics today and jumping in. So without further ado, here we go. Step number one in recruiting, and what I started seeing a trend with is the successful companies out there that are recruiting agents at a high level right now. They have a process. That's right. They have a process. And so let's talk about the processes that I started seeing. Well, it started by having a process around attracting agents. Right? They have methods, they have skills, they have systems in place that are helping support them, take them and getting in front of agents. Now, whether that's through running ads on Facebook, whether that's doing things on, I almost said Craigslist, but like the job sites, whether it's doing networking events, they have a very unique process that's pretty much customized to their environment, their organization that lives around their strengths. And it reminds me so much of what we teach agents, right? If you can teach an agent to live in their strength zone and have a process of attraction to getting clients that they want to work with, then that's what we have to do. And there's no difference really in an organization versus an agent. And so having a process of attraction and having a system around that is critical. The second piece to having a process is how you interact, right? What is your process that once you get in front of them, how are you interacting with those individuals up until the point, which we go to number three is consultation, right? Are you living on social media and interacting with people there in groups? Are you doing it on a private Facebook message or in Messenger? Maybe you're taking it offline and getting it to a text message or email. Having a process and a system around that so you know you can book one conversation to the next and always keep moving it forward. The third thing is moving it to a one-on-one consultation, right? We're never going to sell anything online. Like, let's be real about that. Let's get intentional about getting face-to-face, whether it's through Zoom or whether it's through a phone conversation. Start the consulting process, start the interview process, if you will. I know I've seen some that they run job ads and they actually make agents apply to come into their organization. And it's a whole application process. And they might get 50 applications a month. And guess what? They only hire 10. Like, that's amazing, right? They're actually going through, they're following a process because they know the people that they're going to say yes to are going to be successful. And on a flip side of it, if you're taking more of a business consultative type approach or interview where you're getting one-on-one with a person and giving them something of value during that consult, like that's another approach, but you've got to have a system around that. And then the third thing, it's inviting them to join your company. When you found that person, you followed that process, what are you giving to them and saying, here's the next steps? Do you have the scripts outlined? Do you have the words that are going to attract the right people to your organization? And so as we talk about having a process, think about what you currently have around attracting people, the attraction plan. What's your interaction plan? What's your consulting interview plan? And finally, what's your plan to invite and being very intentional about asking to go into business with this individual? So that's the part of having a process. Now, the second piece that I started finding was having standards. And I think this is so important in our industry today because having standards and knowing who is your ideal agent that is a perfect fit for your organization. I have this thought with our industry, it's constantly battling, right? We're knocking heads with each other and it's a constant recruit. Well, what if we slowed down? And what if we looked at our organization, the culture of our organization, who the ideal agent is to meet our standards that we're going to set? Who are those individuals? What do they stand for? What are the standards that they have? Maybe you're only going to recruit top producing agents. Well, what's the definition of a top producing agent to you and your organization? What are the values that people stand for? Where do they live? I was just talking to one of my partners, and amazing, like so many of her agents have been attracted to her organization through salsa. They love salsa, and they're a family, they're a community of agents that thrive in that environment. So what is it unique? What are the standards that you're setting for your organization on who you want to attract? Because there's a second element to this. When you define who that person is, you'll naturally be able to tell that story to your agents. And then your agents can start telling the story to other people, be like, oh, it's so awesome. Like it really develops the culture around the standard that you set, but only you can set that. And once you've set that standard, you know who you want to be in business with, right? You can share that story and go on from there. But once you have that conversation, right? This goes back to the process of interacting, the consultation or interview process that you might go into. It's what are the expectations that you set for that person? And just because they check the box of they're your ideal person, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good fit for your company, because maybe the expectations that you expect out of your agents, they're not able to meet, or maybe it's vice versa. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as leaders is we can show up and we can set the standard on how you are going to show up in their world as a leader. How are you going to show up in that transition period, especially if they're an experienced agent? Or maybe they're brand new and they need their hand held through the process of getting started. We've got to set the expectation from the first meeting all the way until they decide to retire out of real estate. What's the expectation on how you're going to show up? If you're the broker in charge and you wear multiple hats, are you on call 24/7? What's that look like? And maybe you don't. Maybe you have boundaries and you say, you know what, after this period of time, there's no emergencies inside real estate. And this is my family time, or this is the time that I'm going to wind down because we can't constantly be going. And you share the story of if you're a leader out there and you're going 24/7 miles an hour, like 365 days, like how much can you truly give when your tank is empty? And you've got to set those standards, those expectations. But then also, what are the expectations for them to show up? The agent engagement that you have inside of your culture, inside of your office. What are the expectations on how they respond to you? Right? We never want any secret agents where they're just hiding out and you never hear from them again. Even though they may be a top producer and they may be doing deals, which is great because your environment supports that. The successful companies that I'm seeing right now, they have agent engagement. They're willing to give back. Those leaders, those agents that are top producers, they want to hone their skills in certain ways. And so they're actually stepping up and they're teaching. They're available. They're consulting with other agents and they're becoming a part of the bigger culture. They're becoming a part of the organizational level and helping it move forward. So I want to encourage you to do what you say you're going to do and set that expectation of your agents as well. Encourage them to do what they say they're going to do. We have to evolve our industry. And that's what I saw in recruiting. When I took all these notes and I went back through these three different lessons of having a process, having standards, setting clear expectations. It may be nothing new, but as I looked at this, I started seeing the patterns of what's actually working. We've got to stop fighting. We got to stop this infighting of recruit. And we're seeing it more and more now. We have, with organizations that we work with all across the country, we're starting to see referrals being passed back and forth of agents. Like, what a novel idea that all of a sudden maybe my organization or your organization might not be a fit for an agent, but you can refer them to somebody else that has a clear standards and definitions and expectations laid out, to where maybe brokers are now passing agents to other brokers. Because what's most important is that agent succeeding. And if it's not a good fit for your organization, you can refer them to the person that is. So I hope this has been insightful. I hope these 3 lessons you can take and you can look at and you can investigate inside your world. What are your processes? What are your standards? What are the expectations that you're setting for the people that you're attracting into your organization and into your culture? Thank you for tuning in today. This has been a special episode recapping everything around recruiting and the episodes that we've recorded to date. If you like this, please let me know. If you want to see more of these where I come in here and I recap some of these lessons, I would love to hear that. And if not, tune in because we have some amazing content coming up. And if there's a specific topic you want to hear about, let me know. Thanks again for tuning into this episode. We'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Broker to Broker Real Estate Podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe to the channel. For more information, tools, and resources, go to www.brokertobrokerpodcast.com. And always remember, be you and be real. We'll see you on the next episode.